Hey everyone, I'm Katie Moritz and this is a quick video to talk about enharmonics and how they apply on the hammered dulcimer. Notes that are enharmonic are notes that sound the same but are written differently. If you have an instrument that has a 17-16 range or a 16-15 range, which means your lowest marked note is an A, then the enharmonic note that really stands out on your instrument is going to be this one here. It's a D sharp slash E flat. So D sharp slash E flat is going to sound like this. This is the low octave and this is the higher octave. Both of those notes are the same note. Obviously they're an octave apart, but they're the same note. When you bought your instrument, hopefully you got a tuning chart with it, and that tuning chart would probably label this note up here as either an E flat or a D sharp, or maybe it even says E flat slash D sharp or vice versa. And this note here, it might say A sharp slash B flat or the other way around. Those two notes are notes that kind of stand out to me on our instrument, the hammered dulcimer. I'm just going to do a quick little demonstration. I hope that you're able to see these two tuners. So this is a snark tuner and it's attached to the Dusty Strings Dulci tuner. Pretty cool. And this is just a tuning app called Clear Tune, which is also a really great tuning app for your phone. When I hit this note, I get two different readings. So watch what they both say. This one says D sharp, this one says E flat. So the snark tuner says A sharp and the clear tune says B flat. The snark tuner says D sharp, the clear tune says E flat. It's the same note because some tuners are going to show you a sharp and some tuners are going to show you the enharmonic flat. No big deal, you probably already knew this. So perhaps you think of these notes in how they reflect on your tuner, or perhaps you think of them in how they were written in the tuning chart that you were given when you bought your instrument. Here's how I think about it. So here's the circle of fifths. If you're not familiar with it, you can do some research on it. It's a really useful tool for hammered dulcimer players. I'm also doing a video explaining this and how it pertains to the hammered dulcimer. That should be available shortly. So let's go ahead and just start here on this D. I'm going to play my D here. This is the marked course. Go up to the next marked course is a G. Next marked course is a C. Next marked course is an F, B flat, E flat. So all of my marked notes go in this order. You might even have an A that's below your D. So when I'm looking at my instrument, I think of these two notes as B flat and E flat, regardless of what my tuning chart says and regardless of what my actual tuner says, because that's the order that they're in. If you're going counterclockwise, you're going to have flat notes as opposed to sharp notes if I were moving clockwise. The reason you would call this a B flat and an E flat is the same reason why I would call that note an F sharp, and the same reason why I would call that note a C sharp, because this F sharp fits within the context of what's around it. This is a D scale, so it makes sense to have an F sharp in the context of that note. Now, if I were looking for a G flat, guess where I'd go? I'd go to my F sharp. So if something is written as a G flat, I'm still going to play an F sharp, but all the rest of the time I'm looking at that note, I'm thinking of it as an F sharp, not necessarily as a G flat. And it all has to do with the context of what is around it. So these notes here, B flat and E flat, the context around them tells me that that's a B flat and an E flat. So think about it this way. Remember, these are written differently. So this is kind of like musical grammar. It has to do with how a note is written. If I were to say, "You're not going to lose your cool," you're not going to lose your cool. You know what I mean, right? You can hear the sentence, you hear the context of those words, and you know that the first your is you are, a contraction, your, and the second your is a possessive, Y-O-U-R. You know that those two words are spelled differently, but they sound exactly the same. That's kind of how this is. So without me even showing you, you knew that these two words were spelled differently, just based on the context of what you heard. So here's a musical example, I guess. That was just Whiskey Before Breakfast, but I started on this note, B flat, and I played that E flat, B flat, C, D, E flat, F. That's all diatonic to the key of B flat. So I know that this isn't going to be a D sharp in that situation. I know I'm playing an E flat. Now, if I play something completely different, that sequence was in the key of B major. So in the key of B major, I've got all sharps. I don't have any flats. I have an A sharp and I have a D sharp. So in this case, I'm thinking of these two notes as being A sharp and D sharp as opposed to B flat and E flat, only because of the sort of grammatical context that I'm putting it into, which is the key of B major. Ultimately, it doesn't really matter because it's going to sound the same to your listener. So, for example, if you don't know how to spell the difference between your and your, you are, contraction, and your, possessive, nobody's going to notice when you're speaking. So nobody's going to notice when you're playing if you happen to be thinking about this note as a B flat, even though you're playing in the key of B major. But it does explain why sometimes this is written as a B flat and other times it's written as an A sharp. It has everything to do with the context of the notes around it.